One word for Woodstock. Convenient for me.
Authentic.
Lovely.
Woodstock.
Colourful. I would say it's alive.
How come is it like?
Woodstock is an atypical South African suburb in Cape Town, known for its dilapidated charm. Creatives continue to flock into Woodstock, despite its reputation for crime, litter, and derelict drug houses. Luke and Jenny Pedersen, a young couple living in Woodstock, are helping to make a change to the street and those living on it.
I moved to Woodstock 8.5 years ago and to study, and I chose the area because I like the feeling, I like the architecture and the people, and it's also very close to town and close to wherever I need to be. And it's an awesome place to live. It's very exciting. It was quite rough when we first moved in, and but it's now quite a trendy place to be, which has its ups and downs as well. But yeah, I like there's a nice community, and I've watched a lot of guys grow up and been able to make friends with a lot of kids and a lot of people. So it's nice. Most of the walls are quite low, or there aren't any, and there's a nice connection. You know. Woodstock's the most exciting place to live. I moved back here from all over the world to live here again because I like it, and it's exciting to live here. I wouldn't live anywhere else. I can't see myself in the leafy burbs. Woodstock's only really beginning now, and what is nice is there's a lot of people moving in with the mindset of inclusion and community as a real value for moving in, not just to create their own perfect thing, but to try and live alongside completely different people. And I think the cycling culture here has also helped that. People are more in touch with each other because you're not behind the car, you're on your bike, so you're closer to everyone and you can chat and you're on the same level. And that helps a lot because it breaks the divides.
I think what's quite nice about Woodstock is that most of these houses we all live really close together, so you have to know your neighbours, whereas maybe in some other areas or suburbs, you get to hide behind your high walls. So your neighbours' problems are your problems, and your neighbours' joys are your joys.
Yeah.
And so you get to share life together, even if you don't want to. It's kind of you have to.
Yeah.
Violet's Walk is based on the walking route of 89-year-old Violet George. The benches, aimed at keeping the community out on the streets, are crafted by Pedersen and Leonard and the Violet's Walk team.
I love walking around, and I talk to each and everybody, and I have such a lot of friends, young and old, and how shall I say, even the babies. I was walking up Fairview Avenue when this young gentleman, he started talking. They're putting a few benches like where I walk. So they must have watched where I walk and put the benches and up top of the benches, Violet's Walk. Oh, you see that.
The whole project came about by an invitation from designer Gabi to submit a proposal for the project called Your Street, and so the invite was to try and imagine something you could do to your street to improve it and to use design as a tool. So we translated it to Woodstock. We wanted to improve Woodstock in some way, and we wanted to get people on the streets. And so we started thinking along those lines of benches and seating and public space. And then we met Violet George, the nice old lady, and she inspired us because she does a lot of walking. So it made sense to follow her example.
I think what was so much fun about Violet's Walk and making these benches and creating this walking route was that we realized how much people want to be a part of something. And so when
there
we
was a lot
a lot of people in the
Yeah.
park. So we had a party in the park on a Saturday where we launched the whole event, and then we had a band
Yeah.
walking us up the streets, the route, with Violet leading the way.
It is quintessentially Woodstock, you know, that people from the area or people who happened to be in the area observed one woman's walk, engaged with her and came up with a solution that is very unique and very Woodstock.
What's also been a positive aspect of Violet's Walk project is it hasn't had any handout mentality surrounding it. So it has been a giving or a generous donation to the community, but it involves the community also buying into the project and using the benches. And so it's so exciting whenever I drive or walk past one of the benches and there's people sitting on it and enjoying the sunshine or enjoying each other.
I think the benches have already benefited the community. People use them. That's the main thing. It's awesome. We see old people resting, we see young kids chatting and hanging around there, and late night teenagers kissing on the bench, and it's awesome. It's being used.
Somebody said to me, 2-3 years ago, Violet, tell us you were secret at this age and you're still so. So I said, they have 10 children, but she long.
Although the streetscape is changing, crime is still prevalent. Shamil Abbas, a local resident and head of the Woodstock Community Outreach Forum, tries to keep the streets safe.
Being born and bred in District 6, we had a very close community. White, black, Indian, colored, we all lived together. And Woodstock had that similar scenario. And that little bit of District 6 that I saw in Woodstock, it just kept that bond as closely knit as possible.
I think it's quite a unique community. Has a lot of history. You know, the District 6 area is right on Woodstock, and some people would even say it is part of Woodstock. Many of the people who were forcefully removed from District 6 are now living in other parts of Woodstock. So it is a community that went through the pain of apartheid and really was able to resist parts of it. And it's in quite an exciting place right now with all this interest in the area.
You're coming into a street known as Devon Street, known by the certain factors as Devil Street before, 3 years ago. This road had 6 drug lords with the help of SAPs and being very vigilant, and with my surveillance, we've managed to get rid of all 6 drug lords.
I don't easily accept that the area is rife with drug lords and rife with brothels. I think that there may be hot spots which we need to deal with, but we can't deal with them unless people report them.
There's a lot of awareness amongst the community. They are more vigilant. They take notice of who's from the area and who's not from the area.
Sina Porter has lived on the streets of Woodstock for many years. With the help of the Pedersons and other residents, Sina was given a different type of home. Later, her friend Tina joined her on the stop.
I got to know Sina from her and her husband, whose nickname was Kat. They used to sleep outside a house, and they have stayed there on the pavement for about 30 odd years. And a few years ago he passed away, and so she was on her own, and so it became difficult for her to fend for herself, and just the normal cycle of like alcohol abuse and stuff. So her blankets would always be either wet or stolen, and so we started to think about like practical solutions for her.
It was a lot harder for her, and she was a bit more scared, and
she's alone.
yeah, she was alone, and she was having lots of bad dreams, and so she used to come and hang out here with Tina and all of us quite a lot. and that's when we decided we needed to build some roof for her. Well, we actually rent that house, so the property itself is for us to use as we wish, and the landlord was really wonderful and is also a Woodstock resident and loved the idea, also knows Sina and Tina and the gang, and thought it was a great idea.
So we decided to build a small house for her, which has had all kinds of other nicknames, but we see it as a house and she sees it as a house.
And we brought it here to Sina. Were you with her when she saw her house for the first
yes,
time?
the first time.
Remember?
Yes. Viva, no?
Yeah.
Viva, come tell Sina, come, Mama, there's a surprise for you, no?
And she came here and she was
Me and she.
with you, and she just walked all the way down the road, and we
came.
didn't even know if she was happy or sad. And then she came back about
She
half an
was
hour later. She was
happy,
so
yeah.
happy.
When we decided to build that place, it was kind of the first step. My hope was that this would be the first step to her realizing that she could actually get her life together and actually move off the street. And there wasn't a financial model for any other way. No one was willing to rent a house for her or anything like that. So this was the next step. But at the end of the day, it is up to the person. So she has to decide for herself. You can't force her to want to get off the street and clean her life up. You know, that's for her to decide.
I think what Sina told me the other day has been the biggest blessing for her, is that she doesn't feel like she's bothering anyone, because when
No one.
yeah,
no one.
no one minds.
No one minds.
Sina's bedbugs has been both commended and criticised. Critics complain about the size, lack of sanitation, and the implications this has for her dignity.
I never tried to say this was like the best solution or this was like solving everything, because it's not solving everything, and she's still an alcoholic and she's still like very dysfunctional in lots of ways. But she has a roof over her head and she has a place and she can keep her belongings safe, and she's therefore like entrenched in the neighborhood and in the community where before she wasn't, you know. So, and I didn't invent any of that. She invented that herself. She's always been there. I just made it more possible.
Obviously it's not ideal. I mean, it wouldn't work if every single person started building these houses on their stoeps. And obviously it would be much better if Sina had an entire house to herself, but we just felt this was our solution for right now, and it's better than nothing.
Well, firstly, I didn't make the house for any kind of fame or any kind of like publication. So it existed for a few years before anyone knew about it. People that are criticizing it are generally armchair critics. Yeah, if their opinion is that's fine, but they need to do something, you know. And that was my response was, what are you doing about it?
The Woodstock Peace Garden is a community initiative headed by local businessman Bruce Bayer. It provides a green space next to the street where members of the community can work a plot for their own produce.
People usually stumble in here and say what's going on, and we explain, and if they want to be involved, they're welcome to come and have a key. And once you've got a key, you can come and use the garden to walk your dog, to walk the labyrinth, to interact with people, to bring your green refuse and leave it here. It doesn't belong to anybody. I think that's part of the problem in the society we live in. You know, we all think that I own this and you can't have this and that's mine, and to get this I have to rent it. So I don't pay any money to be here. And I think myself and the other people who use the property gain so much joy out of the fact that there's no money changing hands. In old times we would have had farmsteads and animals and things to do for young people. So that network of activities has been lost to the community. Here's a piece of planet Earth that nobody really owns, that we're all using and developing in some way to, I don't know, find ourselves again. So yeah, it's a field of opportunity.
The community of Woodstock values its heritage. The Victorian houses that line the street are testament to this. Till Meinecker, part of the Aesthetics Committee, speaks about Woodstock's urban renewal.
I lived here as a student in sort of the early 90s for a period of time. Compared to that time, the biggest difference is, I guess, on the surface is that it's a lot greener. and buildings are in much better condition. I guess it's been going through a period of gentrification. Back when I was a student, the population was much more mixed income. Nowadays, the house prices went up in the last 10 years substantially. I think it's pushed a lot of people out because they received lots of money for a house here and moved somewhere else. And generally, the level of income in Upper Woodstock has risen substantially. And the result is the homes have all been renovated. People have attended to gardens. And it's generally become prettier and more gentrified, I guess.
I hope that we will somehow manage to keep the history alive and that it won't become so regenerated that everyone who used to live here leaves. And that I think is always quite a sensitive topic, in that so many younger professional working people obviously are choosing to live here. It's a wonderful area to stay.
But you can't expect a city to stand still. You can't expect an area to stand still, because then that's a sign that the economy is not actually moving. So if things are growing and things are being developed and prices are going up and people are getting work and people are creating jobs, that's a sign of progress. So some people are very quick to say that that's negative gentrification. I'm not so fast in jumping to that conclusion.
But my hope is that we will really learn to integrate with each other from different social backgrounds and classes and cultures, because that's what Woodstock has always been about. It's been such a cultural melting pot of people, like Tina and myself, from completely different backgrounds, but we share a love of living here.
Houses are beautiful here. Part of what makes our suburb beautiful is not just the houses, it's the streetscape. It's being able to see the little front gardens and the stoeps that come with the houses. It makes for an interesting and beautiful place. And whilst the boundary wall policy that asks for these things isn't specific to Woodstock, it actually affects the whole of Cape Town, to my knowledge. It's about that. It's about wanting to not walk or drive down a street where all you see are blank walls. It's an atypical South African suburb. It's not suburbia, which is what most of our cities are. It's a little bit grittier. Over the last couple of years, we've had a huge influx. The biscuit mill started, a market which brought in businesses, and with it, suddenly we've become this alternate center in Cape Town.
Roy, a recovering drug addict from the streets, has turned his life around. Through the Woodstock Community Church, newfound friendships, and a job at Pedersen and Leonard, Roy is now walking a new path.
I've been in Woodstock for like 8 years, 10 years actually. But I used to live in Mitchell's Plain, and that life is like drugs and gangsterism and stuff like that. And I wasn't into gangsterism, and I always liked to work, and when I came to Woodstock, I was actually running away from that area to get away from the drugs and gangsterism, and I started living on the street, but I was not thick and stuff, and I had to go steal, and I'd break into steal copper pipes and just to survive, and do a lot of buggering things, but it changed me. That was like, it's in the past now. My life is totally better now. They showed me other way of, we can teach you do something else, and quite better now, and very nice, man. I love it. I love my life now. In your eyes, you never do something right, in other people's eyes, but it's hectic, man. It was bad, smoking and doing drugs and committing crimes and going to prison and getting locked up. But you don't go to prison, but they lock you up. Like, no, that's in the past. It was bad, man. Not a nice life. Yeah, it's awesome, man. I'm a like upcoming designer. Cool. Sometime soon. I don't know when, but okay. I've got better friends now, and my life is nice, man. I've got my own place now. Got my job. Okay, got a little sister to look after now. Okay, she's older than me, but I think, they look more up to me now, and my life is better, man. I love my life the way it is now. You look at the tennis ball, make an example, you look at the tennis ball, what makes it bounce? You make it bounce. The ball won't bounce on its own, you have to bounce, okay? So take the ball and bounce it, see if it's going to bounce. If it's not going to bounce, it's a rock. So Woodstock ain't a rock, man. It's like, it's bounce. You play the ball with me and I'll play the ball with you.
Color creates energy, energy creates inspiration, and inspiration creates change.
This philosophy of Ricky Lee Gordon comes to life on Woodstock's walls. Graffiti is an unconventional part of the gentrification of Woodstock, as creative minds use street art to make a statement to uplift the community and beautify the area.
The graffiti, we are aware that it's an unwanted painting, but a mural is something which we think it's something to inspire people in the community, and especially it's a matter of raising the social awareness in the community. So Rick is still working on towards it so that he can get a license for all of these murals, so that City of Cape Town, they can come and really take them down.
So when it comes to graffiti, I mean, the city has a bylaw that if a building is tagged, the owner must remove it. If they don't, we will remove it and then bill you. But I'm supportive of graffiti when it is an art form and not a gang tagging, and where it is an art form and not the defacing of a building. And there's a fine line. You know, if you have the permission of the owner and it is a piece of art or art form, then I completely support it and I would resist the removing.
Brightens up the community, and it makes the houses, because it's like very old houses, and it makes it look very nice. And what I like about them, they first do a sketch about it, and then they would actually, do the mural, to show the people this is what we have in mind. Do you like it? Yes or no? We welcomed him and they accepted him, and I mean it was quite nice to see every day the little bit is done and to be a masterpiece like this, which I love.
Okay, always the community or the homeowner will love it. If you consult them, if you communicate with them and say, this is what I want to do, what do you think about it? Like, this is who I am, this is what I'm thinking. Then you create a relationship. Then whatever you create, that artwork is loved. And there's a story. The story is loved, and the artwork was just the reason for the story. We can look at society, we decorate our homes, we create color around us. Obviously, color has an effect on us psychologically. And if we can take that and then apply it to a child's life, I think then you must make it really colorful. And if you take that attitude, then you should take color to the streets. It should be all around us, not just in our classroom.
I really enjoy riding through Woodstock. I enjoy exploring some of the more dodgy sides, and part of it is my own just inquisitive nature, and part of it is also that I want to be part of showing the people in those areas that I'm not afraid to be there. Because when they learn that I'm not afraid, then something changes in the mindset, because it's almost like it's an evil unto itself. The area is so bad because people say it's so bad, but if you go there, you're then saying that it's not so bad. So I understand that just by your presence in a place, you can actually change part of that mindset.
The isolation of city living has led to the increase of young professionals making their home in Woodstock. They are drawn to the spirit the community offers. People want that connection, even if it means being connected to danger.